Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the M1 iMac and see how this device holds up in 2023. Now, the funny thing is, I actually could not stop thinking about this iMac last year. I just would always think about it and I just wanted to buy one. I don't really even know why. It was a great iMac, but I love the fact, coming from my 5K iMac, the Intel iMac I used before my M1 MacBook Pro, I loved an all-in-one PC. I'm personally not somebody who needs a bunch of power. I make a lot of videos, but I use Final Cut Pro. It's well optimized for macOS. So in reality, I was pretty much super content with my 5K iMac. And I was hoping Apple would make another 27-inch or like a 32-inch iMac. I think that would have been beautiful. They never really made one, so I just ended up using the MacBook Pros. And I love these MacBook Pros even more now, to be honest. But these M1 iMacs, to be completely fair, they were solid devices. And even before this, with the Intel iMacs, I think they were also very good. They're not like the best value per dollar for everybody, but for certain people, they can be really, really good deals. And I would probably say that for the average person, if you plan on buying a Mac and you don't really expect the craziest amount of stuff, you will be surprised about this iMac. You're getting a lot of capability. Even now that this iMac has almost been 2 years old this year, it's still a very capable machine. Now, maybe Apple will make an M2 iMac, you may want to wait for that. But if you want to pick up this iMac, links will be down in the description. You can get it from there and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off with the price tag, right now this iMac is still selling for $1,299. So $1,299 for the complete base model. So that is with no upgraded configuration or anything like that. There are also some reasons why you may want to upgrade. There's some hardware changes on the outside of these Macs that actually, are kind of given to you if you actually upgrade your Mac. So we'll talk about that in a second. But with the exterior, one interesting thing about this is that, as you may have noticed, they still have a pretty thick bezel at the bottom of this Mac, but the rest of the bezel is kind of cleaned out a little bit. It is a white bezel, which is kind of annoying, but it's not really that big of a deal. The panel itself is really nice though. It's a 4.5K Retina display. It's 24 inches, and I think it's a pretty good panel. So this was bigger than the 21.5-inch, iMac Apple was making before, but it's smaller than that 27-inch iMac that they made before. Like I said, I really like that 27-inch size. I still use my 27-inch iMac every single day with the universal control with my M1 Pro, MacBook Pro, and it is a seamless experience and I love it. With these iMacs, I will say the display, you can connect another display to it, but this is probably going to be the make it or break it for people. It's either going to be the best feature for their Macs or it's going to be one of the more annoying things. If it's more annoying, you should just go buy a MacBook Pro or something or a Mac Mini. But for the average person out there, getting a Mac like this is so much easier than having to go ahead and buy a Mac Mini, configuring it, and then buying a separate monitor, configuring that, and then buying the accessories for it. That actually ends up being more pricier overall if you're just an average person, even like myself, who just wants to use an iMac and some accessories, and we're not really gaming too much or doing super intensive gaming. We're not really expecting a crazy amount. It's more so just like an office type of PC. This is a very good option with that beautiful display, which is something I've been talking about. So if you had to spec out another 4.5K display, the only one I can even think about is the LG Ultrafine 4K display that's around the same size as this one. And, it's not a cheap display. That one still costs several $100s. So you kind of have to keep that in mind. I think that display is still really good though. You can daisy chain with that display, but with this 4.5K iMac, I think is still totally okay from the display standpoint. Now it's very thin as well. So it's a very, very thin Mac. You have that headphone jack on the side, and on the back, this is where things start getting a little bit more confusing. So throughout this video, you could probably tell I'm very happy about this Mac. But this is probably the one downside that I think Apple could have done a little bit of a better job here. So on the base model, okay, you get 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports. Now, I personally I never really liked that. I wish they added more ports here. I feel like they honestly could have because, to be honest, 2 USB ports on the back is not that much. When you're getting something even the latest M2 MacBooks or whatever, the M2 Pro MacBook, sorry, you're at least getting 3 USB-C ports and then a bunch of other, display ports. But even on an M2 MacBook Air, you're getting 3 ports, technically 2 USB-C ports, then a MagSafe charger. This Mac, I feel should have easily gotten to 4 USB ports on the base model. Now you can spec it out to get 4 USB ports overall. So 2 Thunderbolt USB 4 ports and then 2 USB 3 ports. So I think that's cool. I think the base model should have already had it, because at $1299 you're getting just 2 USB 4 ports. With the top tier, well, not even the top tier, the $1499 model, you're getting 4 ports in general basically. So keep that in mind. If I were you, if you're not going to go in the used market, I'd probably just recommend checking this out and just seeing if you can swing up to that $1499 model. But that's where this Mac starts becoming kind of a weirder deal. If you just wanted to go ahead and just use a Mac, you might as well just go buy an M2 MacBook Airs at this point and just buy a cheap, USB-C monitor, and you might be able to go get about the same price as this thing. Even the M1 MacBook Pros have fallen down in the price tag quite a bit. I still have mine laying around, and sometimes I will connect it to a different monitor, and that's where this Mac starts becoming a weirder deal. That if you're going to not buy the base model, then it doesn't really make too much sense to even buy this thing, considering the other Macs have fallen down so much in the price tag, and you can just go buy another monitor too. So that's the one area of this device where it starts kind of not failing, but it starts looking a little bit of a weirder device in general. So keep that in mind. Now, that's pretty much everything on the outside. You still have the stand and whatnot. Now, powering this thing on, you do have that, like I said, the beautiful display. It's still supported on macOS. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. And I definitely do think the, usability of this thing is still very high. There's still so much power built in within this thing. There's still a long lifespan ahead of this thing as well. So you're not really going to be missing out on too much here. From my personal usage of the M1 chipset, it's been amazing. I'm technically using the M1 Pro right now, but even then I still use my M1 MacBook Pro still sometimes too, and it is insane how powerful these MacBooks are. But beyond that, how powerful this Mac is as well. The iMac is a very good, powerful machine. Well, no matter what you're going to do with it, for the most part, you're going to be okay. Now, if you're going to do some really crazy stuff, then clearly this is probably not the best choice, and you might want to go for either the latest Mac Mini or even the Mac Studio. Those might be the better choices to go. But like I said, everything I do on a daily basis with my M1 MacBook Pro, it does everything perfectly fine. And even that cycles down to this M1 iMac as well, because they have the same chipset. So like I said, the only thing that I found that these chipsets weren't really amazing for, maybe sometimes I have to reboot my Macs. I don't know why, but anytime I have two Google Chrome tabs open and then I go throughout my day, after a week or two, I have to restart my Macs. It's very weird. I don't know what's going on. It's been like that since I bought my M1 MacBook Pro from a year and a half ago. But the M1 iMacs, they're going to have this type of problem. But I've said this before, I definitely do think that these type of Macs are very solid, and they definitely have a lot of power within them. So I could sit here all day and kind of convince you. I'll definitely tell you the only thing that I didn't really like about these Macs, like I said before, is the fact that you do have to spend a lot more money to spec it out. Whereas if you even buy the base, M1 MacBook Pro or the M1 Pro MacBook, you might be getting a better machine from those. They're a little bit more pricier, but it's just kind of one of those things to keep in mind. Now, that's kind of it. The only downside I can think of you buying this iMac is, for one, if you don't like that display, or two, if you overly spend on this, then I would not recommend doing that. So what is a good price for this Mac? Well, if you're buying it brand new, if you're spending $1,500 or $1,600, then I guess that's okay. But if you're spending over $2,000, or if you're spending $1,600 for an okay model, I would highly recommend looking in the used market for either one of these used iMacs, or if you can buy a used M1 Mac Mini. If you can find some of those for around $400, you can buy a $400 display, and you can, still use a really good Mac on the Mac Mini, and you'll have a lot more ports that you can choose from on that device too, and that might make a little bit more sense. All in all, you can probably get an equivalent Mac Mini for about $1,000, whereas on the $1,500 iMac, you won't be getting as many ports, and you'll definitely be getting, I think, the same power between an M1 Mac Mini and the M1 iMac. But beyond that, if you don't even want to mess with it, I think the M1 iMacs are very decent deals, and I would probably recommend waiting for the M2 Mac Mini or M2 iMac if you want to, but beyond that, that's kind of how this Mac holds up. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.